question. Traditionally, the healthcare industry was slow to evolve and adopt new trends. But as consumers quickly gravitated to technologies like their digital devices and the newer payment trends that those devices offered or provided access to, the technology shifted quite rapidly, providing a larger gap amongst healthcare providers for meeting the consumer demands related to payments. So they really had to think about deploying new technologies that supported the latest trends. So by being able to support those technologies or look at those latest technologies, healthcare providers were able to quickly gain access to consumer expectations, for communications and payments, meeting the consumer within their digital trends. Ultimately, by adopting, the new technologies and gaining access to digital communications, it led to higher adoption by the consumer and ultimately quicker payments to the healthcare provider, which is a significant benefit by reducing their AR or bad debt along those lines. So making sure that the technology from a digital capability meets the consumer is an important strategy for healthcare providers. So since our inception, we have always evaluated the industry from two aspects. So HealthPay24 back in 2001, was the original innovator in healthcare payments related to, providers looking to collect, revenues from patients. By looking at the two aspects, HealthPay looks at what the provider needs are, along with where the payment industry trends are going. We learned how to work with very complex payment transaction needs of a healthcare provider over our period of time, while implementing these latest trends within the digital payment experience. And if you think about how fast the digital payment trends around payments are going, and how healthcare is very complex and conservative in nature as it pertains to the trends, the data, and security. A lot of those forces don't typically work hand in hand. So being that innovator to make sure not only are we addressing, the healthcare demands from a provider perspective, but making sure we're taking the trends in the industry and applying those to the needs. So I think that's kind of key to where we are seen as the innovator, not only being able to take the trends in the industry, but making sure that they are focused on what the healthcare provider's specific needs are. So that's a great question. And the way I look at it, I think it was actually an environmental change. So over the past year, I believe the adoption within healthcare was really driven to the variable changes related to how they engage their consumers due to COVID. It has been if you look at how card on file has always been utilized, this method has been extensively utilized amongst all digital platforms that supported ease of checkout with card on file. It became the expectation led by the largest companies and travel platforms out there. Consumers simply got used to using, the method of payment by, those digital trends like Amazon and the travel companies on supporting that card on file for ease of checkout. Healthcare providers just had to really accept and adapt due to the recent variables related to COVID. And it really turned out to be a win-win for both the healthcare clients and the consumer. It provided ease of access, during the payment, process. It was quicker and a safer payment transaction, in all aspects of use. And then ultimately it improved the patient experience. You weren't asking them to, enter in or continually to enter in card data for each of the payment transactions. That method was there, and it supported an ease of checkout process.